What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? My name is Jade, and I'm joined by my good friend and collaborator, Simon Anderson. This is episode 8 of the Here's What We Know podcast. Simon, how are you doing?
Jade Farrar. This is in fact episode 8, take 2 of the Here's What We Know podcast. So this is our second time doing it this afternoon after a false start, but I'm here ready to get stuck in. And after a week off, I'm ready. I'm amped. I've got the energy for a big one.
Well, that's what happens when Twitch goes and resets everybody's keys and you entirely forget about the fact that they did that. It's good to be with everybody this afternoon. This is our chance to get into the news and pop culture of the week, and something I always forget to do, but if I could please encourage you to like, subscribe, and do whatever it is the platform encourages you to do to be part of our platforms in the future. Please do that. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, the arguments, the controversy, I need to bring everybody the question of the day. Hannah doesn't know what it is.
Hi guys.
Simon definitely doesn't know what it is.
Sorry, just one thing. Is my phone in here or no?
No, your phone's not in here.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to be right back.
Sure. We are live now.
Oh, just to let you know, guys, I'm not wanting to come in and out. I'm just cooking, so I don't want
You want to be watching your timers, yeah.
So I just want to make sure I have the timer with me.
That's okay. So, Simon, it looks like Hannah's going to be playing a little bit later. Are you ready for the question of the day?
Absolutely.
Alright, so here it is.
Suck it to me.
The question of the day is, what is love?
Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. Great song. Great question. What is love? Something I've spent a lot of the last, at least like 5 to 10 years of my life thinking about. It's consumed a lot of my life in terms of romantic love and then family love, and just and as a person in general trying to act more lovingly, I have embraced love a lot in the most recent years of my life. It's hard to define it. I think I'll start with a bit of a borrowed definition, which I don't fully subscribe to, but I think it gets close. But it talks about romantic love, but you could also extend this into just non-romantic love in terms of family, friends, and just close people in your life. But the definition goes: love is giving someone the power to hurt you, but trusting them enough to know that they won't. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, okay. That I guess that's close, because it definitely it gets close to that subconscious feeling when you know that you feel love towards someone, like underneath where you are expressing that kind of affection. Underneath that affection to them is you surrendering some power to them, to have that power over you a little bit, but you don't really want people that you love in your life to have power over you. Like, you need to then have still that level of to truly love some people. You have to be able to let them go. Like, you can't let your love for somebody change your actions, or you can't let the consequences of your actions related to those loved ones change who you are. So I think love is close to that. It's giving those people close to you the power to inflict like pain on you, and having the trust that you that you know that they're not going to hurt you. But it's a tough question, man. Like, there's so much, or there's different types of love, and everybody has like a subconscious understanding of the emotions and the mental state tied to feeling love for somebody. But it's such a hard thing to write down like a definition of, if if you feel these things, or if you think these things about somebody, or if these specific things happen, then that is love. But great question, Jade, and I hope you enjoyed my answer, my non-answer.
No, that was pretty deep. And before we go to Hannah for her response, just like,
I was gonna say you go next. So.
okay, so before we go to me, then, so would you say that there's always a component of pain related to love? Then, like, is that what you're saying? Because your litmus test for love is about pain. That's what I noticed about your response.
Well, okay. Here's a level of pain that you say that a loved person. This is a bit of pain that a loved person can inflict on you that you will be okay with, and you would still say that you love them. So let's say, for example, your mother passes away. Rest in touch wood. Gosh, hope she doesn't soon. But just for the example, if your mum passed away, you would feel pain, um, because of the grief and the loss and the love for somebody. Like that's a component of your love for them, is that, and you because you love your mum, there is the potential for that pain to come. So,
Yeah,
but you would be okay with that. I would be okay. I 100% know that when the time comes, it'll be painful.
yeah.
But
No,
it's
I see what you're
it's
saying.
part of the package. Yeah. Sorry to get
Uh
real heavy on a Sunday afternoon, but yeah,
no, it was
goes with the
potentially,
question, I guess.
That was the question. Yeah.
yeah, potentially,
Mm.
potentially my fault for going so deep after a week off. Um, for me, love is really about intent. So I don't necessarily, like you, Simon. I don't relate love to romantic love. That is a form of love, but I tend to go to the macro of love and
Mm.
say that love is about intent. Love is things like letting people know you appreciate them. I'm one of those people as well that when I say, I'm keen to catch up or keen to do some kind of activity, I'm really intentional about that. I know it's kind of weird in the modern world. People kind of say, "Oh yeah, we should catch up." This and that. They
Mm.
never do it. I'm all about making sure that gets done. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and because my dad, he wasn't, and still isn't a very expressive person. So this comes back to reverse engineering we talked about a couple of weeks
Mm.
ago. Observing my dad and my mum being quite the sort of withdrawn introvert in terms of her feelings anyway. She's very expressive as a part Italian woman about lots of things. But feelings wise, my parents never did that. So in terms of dealing with everyone around me, I make sure they know that I appreciate their time. I make sure I reach out and just see how they're doing without it being work related. Because a lot of people contact me, they'll say, "How are you going?" And also, we need you to do this thing. And I really hate that about the modern way of socializing. I make sure to reach out to people when there's no need for me in terms of work or personal gain. Yeah, that's what love is. When you reach out with intent for nothing in return. Yeah.
Nice, I like that. Oh, go, you Hannah.
No, you make a comment. It's fun.
No, oh, no, I want to hear yours first, and then it was just something more about. It wasn't in response to Jade's answer. It's just more about the question in general. So I'll wait
Yeah.
for you.
Um, to go on top of that, I think, there's so many different forms of love. I think the biggest thing that you first need to have is appreciation. You need to have appreciation for yourself to be able to accept love, to be able to give love, and love is about caring, actually. you know, that appreciation. And now it's not about messaging someone every day, and it's not about consistency. It's about the intent.
Yeah.
And it's about the intentional purpose of what you do and how you enjoy time with a person. But it's about appreciating yourself, because I've recognized that in circumstances, if you are not in the right place to be able to appreciate yourself and love yourself, you're not able to give love and be loved. So I think it's about an appreciation for yourself, it's about an intent, and it's about caring in the right way, being brave enough to say what may be a little bit awkward at times, it may be a little bit wrong, but the honest truth.
Yeah, so you're very much about love yourself first would be like your vibe.
And that comes from a very young age, and you get that from your parents.
Yep.
And that's not even about romantic, and then from there, you then get to an age where you start having romantic relationships, and then you also recognize the people in your life who actually matter. From I remember in high school, people are as you very much say, oh, let's catch up, to actually now in life, those people who want to say, oh yeah, we'll catch up, one, for the purpose of just for work, or actually who want to catch up and you actually appreciate and enjoy their time. So
I use that phrase very, very rarely. Like I don't expect people on the stream to believe me. Like, you just have to take my word for it. But I use it very, very rarely. Like, if I say keen to catch up, that's Jade saying, yep, he's actually gonna go out and do it. Simon, you were gonna say?
Yeah, so this goes back to one of the first things you said, Jade, for your answer, was talking about you going after love like on a macro level.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but we were talking with one of the viewers last week, and we were talking about him reconnecting with his father.
Annika.
Oh no, it wasn't so. It was the person we were talking about stress. And there was an individual in the chat who were talking about stress and stress levels, and I was talking, and then I moved on to the conversation. We're talking about how love and fear were like the two primary emotions kind of that a human can express. So
he was talking about how anger drives them. Was the
yes,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, that's right. We were talking about anger and that here using it for fuel, and then I was making the comment that you'll burn yourself out eventually. But yeah, so kind of following off that discussion, love is like this. It's one of the two options you can kind of operate as a human. You can choose to operate out of fear and make all of your decisions and actions and mental states exist in that from that core sense of fear. Fear creates anger, jealousy, aggression, all that kind of stuff. But love on the other side creates happiness, it creates gratitude, it creates acceptance, it creates calmness, and so I think love is not just an emotion you can feel towards other people. It's a state of being that you can express, and it's almost like a channel. Like, okay, if you're getting deep into it in terms of like vibrational frequencies and matter, like at the atomic level, and it's all vibration. And you're sounding a bit hippie here, Simon, but love is like a vibration you can tap into, and almost like a version of reality where it's fear-based or love-based, where if you're always acting from a loving place, then loving things will happen. You tune into that, you kind of access that reality of love. And so I think not only is it just an emotion tied to other beings, but I think it's a way of life. that you can kind of adopt as well. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was like love languages. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of love languages, Jade.
I have, but I'm not sure, like, I fully understand them, so keen to hear from you on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think most dudes my age, I think most dudes my age who have you know, either used a bit of online dating apps or have bumped into a few young girls through university and stuff like that. They learn about love languages, but essentially it's just um, habits and things that you do to express love when you feel it for somebody. For some people, words of affirmation just comes naturally, and they're quite expressive with their words in terms of their love for somebody. Sometimes it's acts of service, which is what most males kind of lean towards because it's just how they're hardwired. Solve problems for pretty girl like me. So that's their love language, is acts of service. And then there's like gifts, and then there's like physical touch, and it's just all there's, I think there's like about seven or something, but it's just like these different um personality types and just the way you express your love. But then also like the way you express your love can be different from the way you receive love as well. Like some like dudes who love acts of service probably won't actually acknowledge those acts of service if it came from their partner. They might like be aware of another way their partner expresses love, like
Mm,
through physical touch or words of
yep.
affirmation. Like some dudes are a sucker for a pretty woman who will tell them how muscly and strong they are and how awesome they are. Like, so these love languages basically just kind of these different basic types that people express, and how they manifest. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've never even considered what my love language is. I think, yeah, no, Simon, you're actually blowing my mind. What would you say some of the components of your love language are? Help me to, like, investigate myself through listening to your examples.
Mm,
Are
mm.
you happy to share? By the way,
Yeah, yeah,
this
of
is deep.
course. Yeah, no, I love it. I love this. I mean, I love this stuff. Like, I mean, and if there's any pretty girls watching, they might, you know, hear, like what they hear. But I'm like I'm a very big acts of service dude, almost to like a fault. Where like in previous relationships, I would be so hardwired to just immediately fix problems instead of ever listening to the problems that it would be a hindrance. But it's still definitely one of the ways I express love, and just more generally to the people I love, like not just romance, like to my mates and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I love like buying them a coffee when I come around to their house. Like, you know, there's nothing more than what I love is like if I stay over at a mate's place after a big night or whatever, is like heading down to the gas station, grabbing them a coffee or a Powerade, and coming back and like waking them up and be like, "Here you go, bro. Good morning." Like, you know, that kind of stuff. Just because
nice.
I get like a kick out of that. Oh, bro, you're amazing. Thank you. So like acts of service is definitely something that I like, and then physical touch as well. I think is a big one for me.
Cool, man.
Um, mm, yeah, those yeah, but and then I think I'm a sucker for words of affirmation. I'm a bit of a softie. I like to be told that I'm appreciated.
Yeah, I'm probably not. I'm probably not about the PDA stuff, and I know that that's been a bit of a been a bit of a clincher in relationships of mine because you know, the person that I'm with will be like, oh, so who are you trying to reserve yourself for, or who are you trying not to get snapped by? But
Mm, mm.
it wasn't about that at all. It was
No,
just,
it's just a principle. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and you know, this is kind of going off track, but I think another way that I express love, Simon, is through acts of service, but um, differently in terms of the fact that several times throughout my life, random people have come into my life, like people I don't even know, and like solved really big problems for me when I was a child, like really big. Like won't go onto it into it on the stream, but I've found myself at various times just noticing when people need help and
Mm,
doing the utmost I can not to make it weird, but definitely wanting to solve their problem. You know, because I was helped out in such big ways when I was a kid. I just want to help people like all the time. Yeah. But definitely not trying to make it weird, because I know as Kiwis we're quite prideful and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, I mean, if you take like there's this like trend I've seen on social media for like young millennials, or even I don't know what's the youngest generation, but to like make fun of people's personal traits as expressions of underlying trauma, like how like any sort of like positive or negative quality is just some sort of manifestation of trauma. Like, oh, what's that? You like to help people, and your love language is of acts of service. Oh, is that because you had a horrible childhood and you just want to make sure everyone else feels good? Like, there's just this whole trend of just ruining
Yeah.
nice qualities of people, and it's just like, can't you just let that kind of stuff exist as it is? You don't need to psychoanalyze every component of your personality. There is a certain degree of peace you can find in coming to terms with the complexity of the human like
Yeah.
emotional spectrum, and not trying to just uh box everything in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that. So if anybody's listening out there, stop making those TikToks about things people like about themselves.
Yeah, not everyone is a narcissist. If you watch TikTok for long enough, you'll be convinced that every single person on the planet is a narcissist because they like certain things that this influencer says is like real toxic and weird. But everybody's just trying to make sense of the universe as it is, so we should all just shut the fuck up, do positive stuff, and move on with our lives.
Totally, you can make some really weird commentary about TikTok and what it's done to our like I guess social, not web, but like the social theater of like what is viral and popular from week to week. Like
Mm.
before TikTok came along, trends, like would last through Snapchat and Twitter and stuff for like a few months. Like I don't know if you ever saw on Twitter, but they would do like meme calendars where like there was a famous meme for a month, and it was like you could define a year by which meme was famous in the month. But now in TikTok, trends evolve so fast.
Every
You can have a
day.
trend. You can have a trend that starts in the morning, and if you're online enough, you can see it get meta and like almost come back and start eating itself again, in the space of 24 to 48 hours. Like people are so online and content so short and evolving so quickly that jokes will like make jokes about themselves within the same day of that joke ever being created. I don't know if you've ever seen it happen, but it's like very weird and
Not
crazy.
that fast, but what
You
suffice to
understand what I'm
say,
saying, though, eh?
yeah, definitely. Suffice to say, as a creator of sorts myself, I tend to just worry about myself. I think that that's something I pride myself on, that I'm not out there trying to copy anybody or emulate anything. I'm just thinking, okay, we've got all these channels that I use. How can we use them to the best of our ability? You and I connected up. We started collabing, and we said we wanted to do a talk show. So it's
Mm,
good enough
mm,
for me.
absolutely. I know
So
that we've been talking a lot lately. I don't know if Hannah had anything to add into the latest discussion before we move on.
No, I agree with what you guys are
Okay,
saying. It's good.
cool.
yeah, no, there's been a lot going on in New Zealand, and perhaps we'll loop back around to that stuff. But being that you didn't get any news out in the last episode, Simon, it's fair enough that you get to go now. And you're going to be talking about inflation, I can see on my secondary screen.
Everybody's favorite topic, inflation. Yeah, that's right. We don't really need to get into the nitty-gritty detail of the article as most weeks. I like to just use the article as a bit of a springboard to kind of talk about what I want to talk about. But essentially, what this article is saying is that economists expect to reach the highest level of inflation in a decade, and this isn't just isolated in New Zealand. This is a problem that is happening all over the world. Um, And if you read further down in the article, you can see that it's talking about, like the high 1 point something percentage of increase in inflation per quarter, like which means you're looking.
1.4%, is that the one you were
Yeah,
after? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, if you think about that, over a year, that's 5% inflation. How many people do you know getting 5% a year pay rises every year? Um,
I was going to say,
People's wages.
I know a few, but they're kind of not
Mm,
the average people.
no, exactly. But the thing is, yeah, for the average person, and it's happening around the world, but it's happening in New Zealand, your wages are getting eaten alive by inflation at the moment because of all of the. I mean, I'm not going to criticize the policies because potentially it did save a lot of people's lives, maybe, and it saved a lot of hassle in New Zealand, but we went hard on the welfare to support our COVID response, and we were lucky that we were in a pretty good position comparative with the rest of the world to be able to do that. But places like the United States have, put through a couple of once in a lifetime level acts worth of financial government aid and stimulus, like multiple billions of dollars that they're creating out of thin air. The organization that monitors um, the Reserve Bank of the United States, they've stopped reporting on how much money they've been printing for the last
Wow.
year or so, just as like COVID started. They stopped reporting on the figures, so nobody knows exactly how much it is. But there's been some conservative estimates in terms of like 15 to 20% of, or was it 45% or something like that? I don't know. But there's something gross in terms of the total percentage of US dollars printed in history has happened in like the last 12 to 18 months. America has like stupidly devalued the US dollar and have been hiding that fact through market manipulation. Um, the the Some of the online circles I follow in terms of business and cryptocurrencies, people who are uh you know uh invested in being self-made individuals, they've been commenting on this being a coming car crash for a while. But essentially, this massive amount of inflation is going to come to an issue when the everyday person, the people below the poverty line and maybe just over it at the moment, people who are just getting by, sooner or later prices are going to adjust sharply and people are going to freak out, and um, there's supply chains getting pressured all around the world. There's going to be shortages, there's going to be supply issues, there's going to be price hikes to cover for all of it. And
Do we have
if
any
company if
comparators, Simon? Because this sounds like Venezuela to me. Is this Venezuela? Is this Cuba? Is this what we talk about? Is this where we're headed?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's that direction. I don't know where that close, because I mean those countries that, like, that they let the horse bolt quite a long time ago, like, and then that was a long time coming, and potentially influenced by other countries. You never really know with the South America, um, but yeah, it's just this would be more of an issue if our debt to GDP ratio was higher than it is. It's doubled in the last, well, it's doubled since our pre-pandemic levels, right? Our debt to GDP ratio was half of what it is now before the COVID pandemic happened. And that's purely based on the government borrowing all that money to make sure that we could provide welfare for businesses and individuals to stay home. And that's why you can see they make statements like not returning to level 4 ever again now. They've just definitely been told to put the cork in the public spending, because they know that inflation is going to get away on them. So my advice for people watching is to invest in precious metals and
Crypto.
primary resources. Well, no, crypto, it it's too fragile, and it could potentially just be a giant Ponzi scheme. Um,
Ooh,
I
big call. Big
I don't,
call.
in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's the savior that some people tout it as. Is that this massive rebellion against the centralized banks of the world, the one thing that I keep coming back to that people have said, and it's very hard to shake, it's just that if crypto really existed to upset the banks would never have let it happen and get to this point. Like, the amount of people that have died to protect the interests of centralized banks and international monetary funds and banks and all of the money makers in the world, like the hit list for them to stay in power is big, and there's no way that crypto would have got to where it is now if it didn't have the authorization of these banks, if they didn't have a way of bringing it down and making it all stop, or making it work to their agenda.
Okay, so we're live and on the record right now, Hannah. So let me do this. I'll even go side by side so we get it really clear. Okay, when my crypto wallet blows up, I'll buy Simon a Lamborghini just for fun. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
I never said it's not an opportunity for people to make money. I just don't think it's the long-term permanent solution that people think it is.
Oh,
There is an
I
opportunity.
think you need to diversify in all things. I think you need to be.
I don't think it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't put your eggs
in
all one basket.
No, definitely. Diversify. Be in crypto, be in other sectors, invest in precious metals. Like Simon says, gold, silver, all really valid things. This is not financial advice, by the way. We're on Twitch and I don't want to get banned.
And I think something that I need to do some more understanding is actually how does it work in investing in shares, and not just something like Sharesies, actually investing.
So you want to learn about shares. I mean, they're as volatile as crypto, you could argue.
Yeah, and things like Sharesies, where you're not really actually buying, proper shares in your name. Those platforms are so dangerous. Like, you had the same thing happen with apps like Robinhood and stuff like that in the States with the whole GME debacle. Like those apps where people were trading shares on, similar to Sharesies. They essentially, what they did is they stopped all purchases of the GameStop stock. All you could do was sell it because of the massive short that was people were trying to squeeze.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, so this app was basically forced by these massive hedge funds, clearly, that were going to lose all this money, to basically stop letting people buy the stock because it was just pumping so hard, and all you could do was sell it. They were just trying to shake people loose by forcing them to, the only thing you could do was sell it, see who was stupid enough.
Do you remember when I was talking all about GameStop?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got in on it because, actually, would it be fair, Simon, to say that in New Zealand, the pathway to stock ownership is not really clear for the average New Zealander?
It's not promoted at all. Like, you know what I mean? It's never ever offered as a potential avenue for self-actualization.
Yeah, it's actually quite amazing. But I want to go back to something you said earlier, like your stories obviously about inflation today. But I'd like to explore more the implications. So you kind of said without saying the government cannot afford level 4, or for our overseas friends, total lockdown. They actually can't afford it anymore. Is that what you said?
Yeah, well, they I'll take words straight from the left's own commentary. Abandoning elimination was not a medical policy decision, right? Like, all these people on the left were commenting saying,
that's deep.
If the government were to make a completely wholeheartedly decision grounded in health, public health policy, they would never rule out an opportunity to throw us all back into lockdown to remove that or to limit the chances of transmission in the community. But for them to go out there and say that outright, we will never return to level 4, and then the government never said this. The media said it for them, and then the government just have started saying it as well. But this this abandonment of elimination, the government never really said, "Oh, hey, yeah, you know what, guys, we're just going to give up trying to eliminate this." The media just started saying it, and now the government have just said, "Oh, cool." The government's just, "Oh, cool." The media have been, saying this thing about abandoning elimination. We can say it too now, and people aren't rioting in the streets. A few people are upset about it, but it was a public perception based decision, and to secure them, the capital to get elected again was to make it seem like they were being reasonable.
So the Prime Minister has been asked about this, and one of the things she goes back to, and I kind of have to balance my view on this, but she says, well, we can kind of be softer on elimination strategy because we have such a platform of vaccination. See, this is where things start to really unravel for me. So we know because we've done the reading of the MedSafe and stuff like that and stuff overseas. That while I can accept that the vaccine will limit your symptoms, it doesn't actually stop transmission or stop you from experiencing very serious outcomes from COVID. So when the Prime Minister gets on stage and says, well, we can be weaker on elimination because of this, like, what do you think, Simon? Because over the past week or so, I've been really struggling with the stuff, and later on I want to be talking about the Vaxthorn, the most hideous thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, I might be ignorant, but I haven't seen an example of a country elsewhere in the world that's had the same sort of vaccine coverage and take up in their population that's then seen a marked reduction in cases whilst having, relative freedom to New Zealand. No country has vaccinated their country and then, let people return to some sort of integration and stopped COVID. People are still catching it. People are still spreading it. The vaccinated people are ending up in hospitals. So for her to then, oh yeah, go on.
I was going to add to that, Simon. I've just found out too that one country actually made it mandatory for everybody in the country to get vaccinated, and
where was that?
They went from 3,000 cases to everyone being vaccinated, and they've still got like 300.
Oh, Dubai. Yeah, apparently.
So they've still got cases. How do they still have cases?
No, but it's less, you see, so they're not lying.
Yeah. it's not stopping it.
And like, you make a good point though, Simon, and this is what I struggle with day to day. Is like, I agree with you that we're probably not going to see the end of the need for lockdowns. So this whole framing about get this unproven, unregistered, unapproved vaccine, and we can go back to normal, it's ridiculous.
No, they'll always find a reason for these lockdowns. Like, if people finally start getting sick of the vaccine lockdowns, then, or the COVID lockdowns, then they'll be like, all right, okay, fine. You're vaccinated enough. We'll let people go back out there, but the environment is suffering. We need everybody to lock down 6 weeks a year in summer because you use too much CO2. And what we're going to do is we're going to integrate this software into all of your bank accounts and track every transaction. And then if you purchase too many things from carbon polluters, we're going to cut off access to your bank account. We're going to tax your purchases based on how much carbon that purchase is due to produce in the world. That's what's going to be the next thing. Is they're going to lock you down because the environment's suffering, and they're going to lock down your money. So I mean, that second one, I'm not sure if I've said it here already, but I've seen it. Visa, you can opt into it on their credit cards. It's voluntary now, but you can already opt in to have your credit card policed by the carbon police, so that if you buy too many gallons of petrol, they'll cut you off.
Wow.
It's completely voluntary now, of course, right? But isn't that such a wonderful thing for the environment, for Big Brother to tell you what you can and can't purchase because it might be good or bad for the environment? We're getting
Look,
off topic here, but
we are. So we're no longer talking about inflation, and I accept that. We've kind of moved on. But the other thing that's gone on in New Zealand since the last episode, Simon, is mandates are now official. The
very,
government
very
has
much so.
the government has been on record, and I think I did a bit of research and sent you some clips around this. The government has been on record saying they would never do it, but now they have.
Yeah, and the argument from the supporters of the government is, well, we've got a very different picture now, right? So for the people that are still in support of what the government's approach is to this situation we're in, is to continue to get vaccinated, and we're introducing these rules around these high risk situations and positions that just so happen to almost be everybody who has a job is now in a high risk workplace. But because Delta now is just such a much worse disease than original COVID, that thing that they ruled out being used is now totally what's necessary and is the best tool in their toolkit for managing this thing.
Yeah, no, let's forget about public health measures like masks and washing your hands and sunlight and
Healthy food and vegetables and unhealth and like removing unhealthy working conditions and housing and all of these things that would create agency and much better long-term health outcomes and not line the pockets of corrupt parasitic pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, it's tough to handle.
So at the time of recording this as well, and I alluded to this earlier, we also had in New Zealand a national Vaxthorn where pretty much you were given prizes at various points for vaccinating. Not limited to the Vaxthorn either. Pretty much every week for the last, I don't know, easily 6 weeks, there's been some sort of announcement that you can enter a raffle or get a food parcel or get some free KFC just for rolling up. I'm really disillusioned by the almost, what do you even call it, like the persuasion of people to get it right. Like, here's some chicken, let us inject you, rather than giving people quality, unbiased information to go off. Like, at the end of the day, Simon, it's not actually mine or your business what people inject themselves with, but equally, it shouldn't be anybody's business whether I do or don't either.
Yeah, so I try to have enlightening conversations with my close friends and my IRL friends, that and just try to make them open to the idea that potentially these people who say they have your best interests at heart really don't. But there's only so much that they can take before it challenges their perception of the worldview, and then they just shut off. It's just cognitive dissonance. To a certain point, you can't be too different from what their narrative is because they won't be able to accept it. So I try my best, and like even some of my friends who are fully vaxxed, they're seeing these methods and tactics come out, and it's even starting to question them. Like people who are fully vaxxed going, why why are they doing this? Even to them, it just seems wrong.
Yeah.
And my friend even said, he's like, if somebody at the moment hasn't had the vaccine, outright promotion and pushing the vaccine in just every possible channel and avenue out there is not going to get the stubborn percentage over the line. It's only just going to entrench their viewpoints harder. And I just tended to agree with them. At this point in time, it's there's some obviously 100,000 people, were bought into it, but
Well, hold on, because
mm,
I can accept the 130,000 number as one that's been stood up, but actually, who announced that and when?
yeah.
So, I'm like initially we when the vaccine was announced, I said, okay, I'm gonna look at it, see what happens, and see how useful it is against Delta. Turns out, not at all. And it's also not approved for use in New Zealand. It's literally categorized as a medical trial. I'm very upset with people being persuaded in the way that they are, and I'm also real fast. I'm also really upset that Dr. Bloomfield keeps telling everybody that it's safe. If it's safe, flick the switch on MedSafe. Under the legislation that they're required to monitor things under, flick the switch that says it's safe from MedSafe's point of view. Once you do that, I might believe you. But to go on TV, to have Dr. Bloomfield dancing around saying get your vaccine, and then for it still to be registered as not approved for use in New Zealand, medical trial status, it's just wild. This is not the country I thought I lived in.
So what I was going to say is that, so continuing on about Dr. Bloomfield, I recently heard about Vaxthorn. He was outlining, so the goal for New Zealand was to get 90% of New Zealanders vaccinated. Now his message has changed. It's now saying, well, 90% isn't good enough. Get everyone. He's saying, yeah, everybody do it. We can do it all. And he's like, yeah, no, 89% of where we live, Auckland, is now vaccinated. Either the first or had both the jabs. So it's like, nah, all of you guys do it. So one, that's not a good thing. Another couple of messages that I think it's really negative. One, we're not being told the information, but this whole push of no jab, no job. You're trying to push people, scare them into getting it. They're not interested in getting it, but they're thinking, well, hey, I'm not going to be able to feed my family, so
better get it.
Better get it now. I can't.
Oh, but
can't
it's
not.
your choice. Oh, but you have to get it. It's still your choice, though.
Yeah.
But you have to get it.
And then another thing that is being said is, come on, get the shot, bro. Enjoy summer with us, so we can come back and enjoy summer as New Zealanders.
Thank you, Hannah. You've opened up part of the conversation that I was hoping somebody else would. I think recent promotions have been actually quite racist.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like, where is the respect for the Pacific community to tolerate this, like, just pandering to them? Like, the fact that the New Zealand medical system needs to appear hip and cool and colloquial to you, to then stick their needle in your arm. Like, if that's what it takes for you to make life-changing permanent medical decisions about your body, then like where is the respect for your own independence?
Yeah.
You as I'm from an outsider. I do have some Māori heritage in me, but I haven't
Oh,
grown up with a you
don't
know, like
devalue yourself
mm,
like that. You're Māori, bro.
mm, mm,
That's colonization conditioning. You're Māori, bro. Don't worry about
mm. But the fact that they need to try and act like you to get across their point, like it's not right. It's not proper humane actions. If they want you to do as you're told, they should be able to convince you with sound argument. They should be able to
Yeah.
engage you enough to persuade you of the reasons for outweighing the reasons against, but they aren't. They're singing and dancing and saying, look, we're just like you, we mean you no harm, we've harmed you for decades,
Shot,
we've tried
bro.
to kill we've tried to eliminate you in the past. We really wish you weren't here, but yeah, shot, bro. Here's some KFC. Like, if that's what it takes, and for some families, I will like caveat by saying some people are not well off, and a week's worth of groceries may mean a lot to some people, and for people
Make a
to take that
difference, yeah.
opportunity,
Yeah.
like I can totally understand, and it just reinforces how sick it is for those people to offer that as a condition.
Absolutely
Like,
agree.
why not just fucking give them the food without making it a condition of the vaccine? That kind of shit is just bribing poor and vulnerable people into handing over their autonomy. Like, if that isn't communism, I don't know what is.
And it's this bullying tactic that, because it's being so consistent now, you get being pushed on you, go and get it, and suddenly, well, if you get a week's worth of groceries when you're struggling out here,
Yeah.
yeah, you're saying, well, we've got the head honchos saying that it's good, so okay, yeah, and they're not, you know, um, educated enough to do their own research, and they're believing these individuals, and they're not actually being provided the correct information. About racism again, another thing that we heard the other week on the radio was, um, go get the shot, be Māori.
Oh, yeah. Do it for your whakapapa. That was
Mm,
by far the most racist thing that I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
They're trying to turn the vaccine into a whakapapa issue. Now, I'm not the best equipped to be speaking on this. I'm not directly Māori. I'm Cook Islander, but Simon, I'd be so interested in your views. Hopefully, you've heard that on the radio.
yeah, no, I have heard that used, and I don't know who that resonates with, but surely people who have an understanding of, whakapapa, this it's almost to the point of being an inverse message, where if that this vaccine is potentially going to harm your whakapapa,
Yeah.
like I don't know the how well founded the claim is, but for many people they're saying that especially the Pfizer vaccine is gene therapy. It's not a vaccine in terms of the way it reacts with your body. It is modifying your genes. Now, your whakapapa is your DNA. It's your genealogy. It's your
Mm,
lineage back through
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So if you're taking this vaccine to protect your whakapapa, some people out there in the world are saying that potentially this vaccine is going to do the exact opposite, and I
Yeah.
would hope that's not true, but I'm not the only person saying that.
And then I'm gonna go on a tangent now, staying with COVID a little bit. But Simon, it occurred to me. So where's oh, let me change this scene real fast. Where's the 4 p.m. stand up for suicide?
Yeah, I saw the joke, not the joke. I mean, okay, it is. It's a joke. It's a sick joke that tries to make a point, but someone did that same bit with domestic violence.
Yeah, where's the
Like
4 p.m. stand up for cancer? Where's the
it's
4 p.m. stand up for brain injury?
mm, or influenza or any other contagious disease that's,
You know what I mean?
killing people. Hmm.
I'm sorry, like we're probably at risk of like sounding a bit old hat because we talk about COVID a lot on this show, but it's very front of mind that we do this stand up and like people really fascinated by the numbers. And
Right. Like,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, this is nothing compared to what I see on standard, like, satellite TV. I go home to my parents' house, for dinner quite often. But when I'm there, it's the only time I'm exposed to TV that's not like tailored content that I've chosen. It's watched through the internet. Like they just watch, normal TV, and then I watch the news and the the um the pretend comedy news. Like the nighttime television hosts that um are halfway between news and just funny YouTube clips, but all they are there is to try and attach emotional messaging to current events. But anyway, all of that, like multiple hours of time that I was there, the whole time, the whole hour of news, everything was related to COVID. Everything was COVID. Everything was super like stressful and fearful, and it just made me click on. It made me realize that no wonder the average person is actually so afraid of what's going on right now, because the stuff that they're getting fed makes it seem like everybody around them is out there to get them. Like they are just so bought into the fact that if they go outside without a mask on, a perfectly healthy individual could walk past them, breathe on them, and transmit them COVID, and they could catch it. Like
Yep.
that's what people think, and it's just this would be a breath of fresh air, I think, compared to the stuff that people are consuming.
You know what would potentially change the game for me, and I don't want to be held to account around this, but what might sway me a little bit, and I mean a little bit, I want to emphasize that, is if the Prime Minister got up on stage and said,
Mm-mm.
you know what, responding to those people that have done the research, it's actually not approved. So on that basis, we're announcing a adverse reaction response package to the amount of $20 billion. So if you have any impacts from this, we are owning that it's experimental,
Mm.
but we still really want you to get this because it's actually all we have. If they got the balls enough to acknowledge the experimental status and announce a sort of relief package, then I might do it. Real meme dealer in the chat. How's it going?
Hey,
We're talking about our disdain for our government's response to COVID. Welcome to the stream.
nice to meet you. Whereabouts are you from?
Real meme. He's an OG. He's a mod.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Hannah's forgotten you already. No big deal.
That's right. Hannah's just so famous, she meets so many people that it's hard to make an impression.
Do you know what I
Haven't
mean?
seen you in a while. We need to see more regulars. Familiar.
Like, what do you think about that, though, Simon? If they actually got on stage and said, you know what? Yep. Trial status, you're right.
I mean, isn't that kind of the case already? Like, would your injury resulting of the vaccine be covered by ACC?
No, because that particularly for me, they would argue it away. They would say, oh, it's somehow sort of related to your pre-existing conditions. I mean, you do
And
have
they wouldn't
cerebral
do that.
palsy.
They wouldn't do that with your vaccine package.
Well, you make a point there, but the fact they haven't announced any sort of
Hmm.
what I'm addressing is they haven't announced any adverse reaction package at all. Like people just assume that ACC is going to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
or am I off
yeah,
track with thinking they should
nah.
announce something like that?
And you
Well,
can't
I
announce.
mean, they would never. Oh, sorry, Hannah.
I was gonna say, how do you announce to somebody that this might cause sterilization, or you may not be able to get, or may have fertility
Oh
problems
my
because
god!
of
Remember
it.
the sperm report?
And how do you then compensate somebody for them not being able to have children?
They were saying that like the modern testosterone level for males is that the average 20-something-year-old has a sperm count of like our grandparents' 60-year-old kind of thing. Like just on a general level, the sperm counts have just plummeted.
Yeah, but still.
Oh, I mean, that was just this is like an FYI. I mean,
Yeah.
if it can get any worse, it's already pretty bad in terms of like yeah, men's health around the world. But into your question, back to your question, like, do I
Yeah.
think it would help? I don't really know, man. Like, it's just at this point in time, I just try and play it out in my head, and I could imagine getting up there and saying, "Oh, hey, by the way, like, yeah, it it wasn't actually approved by the FDA. You know,
Or
it's got
MedSafe.
emergency, it's got authorization, yeah. And the MedSafe never did any studies of their own. They just interpreted the research that Pfizer did and presented to the FDA. So there's never really been proper research except for all of you who have taken the vaccine already. Thank you. You've helped us with this medical trial. But yeah, actually, um, it is still a trial, and because there is the possibility of bad reactions, which we think is so rare, I'm announcing billions of dollars up for the taking if you can prove that your injury was from the vaccine. And then I can imagine all of the hundreds of thousands of people that have already taken it getting up in arms going, well, what do you mean I've taken something that's unsafe? You said for months that it was safe and that I need to take this for my health. And like, I could
My
just
fucker
imagine it going,
papa.
yeah.
Oh my god. Simon, I've just noticed that we're at the top of the hour. I'm gonna take a quick break and share some messages from our good friends at Twitch, and we'll be right back after this. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for bearing with us on that short break. I'm not sure if you actually saw the messages from our good friends at Twitch, but we've been encouraged to take more breaks as streamers, so it's kind of nice to be able to do that. Simon, Real Meme's actually done something really interesting.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
He's actually laid out his follower age, and it looks like Real Meme has been following for 3 years, 4 months, 8 days, and a handful of hours.
Thank
Nice.
you so
Good
much.
innings.
That's really nice. Real Meme says, almost finished uni in the time space that I've been following. Nice.
Yeah, that's what I
Nice.
thought. I remember last time I remember speaking to you, and you were just starting uni, so in the beginning of it, so
Hard case.
Of course,
that's cool.
I'm really fortunate to have Real Meme as a follower because he came to us by way of Michael Pullman, who as we know has unfortunately passed. So it's really good to have one of Michael's friends along,
Yeah.
and part of our familia as well.
Yeah.
So Hannah, you said you had a story. I don't actually have your notes, so I'm gonna fly by the seat of my pants on this one.
Just a bit of an informative thing, a bit of a positive outreach. So, often you find with large corporations, you will either get lost in the mix of things, or and when I say corporations, I'm saying responding and questioning, sending a feedback form, and often you won't get a response. Now I have to say, I am very impressed. We recently here for Jade's company have joined Monday.com, which is CRM system, and you know, I sent in a query, and I was so impressed with them. I just kind of said to them, I wasn't impressed with them, and said to them, say, hey guys, this is not accessible. What's your plan? And a lot of times from websites and different platforms, I've had people come back to me and say, accessibility? What's that?
What, you have network issues? You can't access the site?
Yeah. And literally Monday.com came back to me and actually told me the roadmap for web accessibility and to make it more, so there'd be more universal access for all, because right now, you know, the app has limited capabilities, but it's talking about growth, and I just thought they're actually following up and making sure that I'm satisfied with it and want to actually keep engaged with me to make sure how I feel as changes develop and come on board. So it's interesting to know what kind of experiences you guys have found with not just websites, but any situation that actually having workable feedback and in a positive way forward within your work.
Yeah, I think what you're highlighting, and Simon kind of alluded to, is that a lot of these big data apps that we use on a daily basis, when you ask about accessibility, they literally have no idea what you mean. And as Simon just said, you know, they tend to go, oh, what, you can't get on, or you, like, is your modem working? Is the first question you'd probably get. And
hey Jade,
yeah,
you guys are frozen. Just your camera. Just sorry to interrupt you.
Shit, we actually are too, but you can still hear me, okay?
Yeah, everything's all good. Like, I'm fine. It's literally just your camera.
I'm fine. It's literally just you. Cool.
Yeah.
Let
No,
me...
I mean, like, and I can see myself moving flawlessly on the stream. It's
Yeah.
just you guys.
Let me try and solve that. I genuinely worked on that before the stream, and
But
thought we
shout
had
out to the quality for today. We've taken another step in the direction of making these live streams even better, and hopefully, if you've been watching the last few, this camera should be nice and tight and crisp.
So do you like the new process? We won't talk about it so much, right? How are you finding? Because we're not using Discord anymore, is the thing that I will say.
Friendship with Discord ended. Friendship with the vdo.ninja now started.
Oh, I don't know what's going on with my camera, but I'm always having to go back to my not so great one. But we're back now. Thanks for the little shout out about the technical issue there, Simon. Where was I?
No worries. I don't know if you can push the camera a little bit, how much
room
you
can.
have.
You mean let Hannah actually in? Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Get her all in there. Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
where were you? Sorry.
Yeah, so these big data apps, you know, they focus on shortest amount of time from sign up to putting your credit card in. So accessibility is way down the priority for a lot of these apps. I mean, Twitter and Facebook have been around a little bit longer, so they've had time to invest and look at that. And actually, it has to be said that Twitter's done a reasonable job. Facebook, I'm still hearing things about the fact that, you know, it could be better. Simon, I won't go into it, but you know, the organization you're with, that they need to have a decent consideration of accessibility. So you've had a bit to do with accessibility in your job.
Yeah. Or even my previous job before that. Well, not even that job. Sorry, it was before my first job when I was interning, whatever you call it. I don't know, part-time work at a software company whilst also studying. My first role ever was a software tester, and I did have to use JAWS as part of my job to
Oh,
test their
wow.
software. Yeah, so trying to just like close my eyes and like tab and learn the JAWS like keystrokes whilst also trying to like use a website that I hadn't really spent much time understanding where it all was. Like I almost gave up. Like it was just so difficult to try and use the to use JAWS with like my eyes closed. I just gave up and kept my eyes open while I used it, and it wasn't much easier, but you kind of knew what you were highlighting at least instead of just listening to what it was saying. Like so I've had a bit of experience, yeah, pretty much my whole working life with accessibility, which is kind of cool. Like I had a pretty good foundation of accessibility in some of the tools people use before I joined a disability related company. But even here, like it's not like accessibility is a core. Well, like when you begin a project, you know, it's a core part of the scoping and it's a core requirement. But when it comes down to the fact of, say, like building a website, it's not like every week the meetings go, okay, what's the most recent changes we've made to this, and what are the accessibility uh consequences because of that? Like, are things easy to use, or did it hinder navigation in any way? Like, that's not happening like where you would think it should. um I guess if it was like if it was, you know, accessibility at the core of everything.
And I think there are a few reasons for that. One is, we've talked a lot, Simon, about disability employment statistics. So you're not really that exposed to people with disabilities in different workplaces. There is something to be said about disabled people themselves needing to upskill in different fields. We were having a chat, before the stream about stuff like that. Certain fields you just don't see disabled people in, so more work needs to be done in that area. Often, in the spaces that I work, similar to yours, there's always that debate of, oh yeah, diversity's cool, but we need the right person for the job.
Mm.
And I don't actually dispute the right person for the job argument. I actually agree with that. My wondering though starts a couple of steps back from that to say, well, how will disabled people ever get into these roles if we just write them off entirely? We need to do better with pathways. Because if I'm honest, and I've said this on stream before, I have been extremely, ridiculously lucky with some of the opportunities that I've gotten. But at the same time, it has to be said I've been really strategic about where I've positioned myself to show up in front of people that could give me opportunities as well.
And
Absolutely.
just to follow on from what you said is, I feel like simple updates, accessibility is an afterthought. You know, I've been involved in projects where I've been asked to review and provide advice about how accessible a product is, and then I find that my advice is then almost ignored in ways, has been almost ignored in ways because they've got a pathway of when something needs to be released, and
Deadlines.
and then
Lol.
they haven't actually considered, well, what if it's not accessible? And there's been situations where people have just like, well, we've just gone and released it and we'll fix it up another time.
That priority stack, right, Simon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been a quite a big
Sorry.
shift. There's been quite a big shift in the recent years to being quite accepted of the minimal viable product approach of release what you can and fix what you need to later. Like, and and
Yeah.
people take that approach. People know that exists in the private sector, but then just to bring this kind of back to the discussion that we've had throughout this live stream, is that people in the public sector do the exact same shit. Point in case is this the new app that they're talking about for the vaccination status, and there was already security experts, putting out news articles saying that they'd, run the app through security screening services, and they've given it a poor rating and saying that it's at risk of being exposed. Like, the government will half bake everything they do because it's just regular people like we are. They will rush out a minimal viable product and then they'll fix what they need to later. Like, you can bet damn sure that any sort of tech built for the government is from the lowest bidder for the cheapest price.
I'm just laughing, Simon, because I'm thinking, okay, I've been asked to develop a minimum viable product, whereas my minimum viable product will be, sure, I'll make sure it's definitely accessible, and then there'll be design elements and features that will need to be developed at a later stage.
Yeah, it's interesting about bringing people's lived experience into projects because, as Hannah just said, we've got a project on the table at the moment, Simon, and you've heard about this for about a year. It's been in contract negotiations, and accessibility is going to be feature number one. Like people are going to have to chase us for a animated hamburger menu because accessibility is going to be first. So it's going to be an interesting turn of the table, as they say.
Nice.
I'm just going to go because
Sure.
let's check the oven.
Yeah, don't burn the place down. Well, that is a nice story to round on in terms of the Monday.com accessibility. It's not very often that we get to pipe up and acknowledge big companies like them for doing the right thing. But Simon, I think we've reached a good place in the show to maybe wrap up.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to send off for the evening. It's been a great live stream. Been lots of lively discussion, and I think it's been good to get back out here after taking a week off.
So what are your final thoughts for the people? What do you want to leave people with for the week?
I guess if there was anything that's probably quite important at the moment, would just be to be aware of the sliding goalposts. Like, if you are basing a very serious component of your life off the instructions and rules and guidelines set out by the authority in your area, then just be conscious of when what they tell you changes from what you were happy with or what you'd agreed to, because it's happening right now, and it has been happening for the last 12 months, where the goalposts of ending a situation or achieving the ideal outcome has continually evolved and will continually evolve out of our grasp until we all realize that we need to get to a point where we say, we do not want to go along with your plan for us anymore. We want to take control for our own lives. So that's what I want to just leave everyone with. Just be careful of the goalpost shifting. Just keep a mental note of what you agreed to and what you authorized versus what they are telling you.
I have to absolutely agree with that, and that there's hard evidence that the goalposts have shifted. That this government will have you believe they've been saying the same thing the entire time. They actually haven't. So I just encourage everybody out there to really look after yourselves. Like, that's all I can say at this point, because mandates are coming. You're gonna feel bullied. You're gonna feel pressured. I just really feel bad. This is not the country that I thought I lived in, honestly, and I don't know what to think anymore. But to kind of flip the mood a little bit, I do want to say something. So, it's actually kind of poignant that Real Meme brought up his follower age, because I actually have an announcement today. So next week is my birthday, and for anyone that's been following since the beginning of the year, since we created this new format of Here Is What We Know podcast, I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway, and to avoid botting and things like that, the follower age is actually going to be part of the competition. So I don't have too much to announce right now, but it is going to be for people that have at least followed at the beginning of the year, and give me some time to work out the details, but it's going to be a decent prize.
Awesome.
Jade's birthday giveaway is happening. I'm going to announce the details early next week, and then we might be doing the draw live on stream right here, and we'll have a beer, we'll have a cider, we'll have a bit of a celebration all together here with Simon. How about that?
Sounds wonderful. Lovely. I love it. Can't wait.
Yeah, so we'll figure out the details, and I'll get some inspiration from Simon if he has any in terms of what we can give back to the fans. But this year for me has been one of complexity, but also lots of really nice things happened. So I really just want to go out strong and acknowledge that and give back. Before we go, I just want to say again, if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't followed, if you're not following me on YouTube, if you want these streams to continue, please consider doing that stuff. It really helps out. Even just viewing the streams or the videos really help. But for now, actually, Hannah, did you?
Social link.
Yep. So ! social in the chat will bring up all the details. But before we go, Hannah, is there anything you wanted to say?
Just thank you everyone for being out tonight, and really appreciate your time and you guys following and engaging with us.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. Thank you, Jane and Simon.
Yeah, we do what we do, eh, Simon?
Yeah, we try.
But that'll do for now, guys. Thank you for being a part of the channel. Thank you for being a part of the journey. Please stay awesome.
And we'll see.
And we'll see. And we will see you all in the next one, ×2. Sorry, Hannah. Stole your line.
No, sorry.
Oh.
We'll see you guys next week.